Hello. I'm jumping in live today to talk about my journey from hustle to harmony. And I really want to take you through this journey of burnout and overwhelm to living a life of grace. And so I'm going to share with you today some of my story, some of the methods that I've used to help me, and really just allow you to anchor in this vision of what's possible, anchor in this vision of the woman I was and the woman that I am, and give you some ways in which you can show up this way in your life as well. So I've got notes today because sometimes if I don't have notes I can go off track, and I really want to keep on track here for you. I really want to give you some key takeaways in order to implement some of these things in your life and really start to understand what the journey to grace was like for me, and understand some of the moments in my life that I faced to really walk me back to this path. Have you ever wondered how someone can go from lost and disconnected and closed and rigid and really just unsure of who she is or who they are despite the success that they've had? And through this journey, through taking you through the woman I was to the woman I am, I want you to start to understand the path of living with grace and authenticity and what's available to you on the other side. I've been where many of you find yourselves right now. Feeling stuck, unfulfilled, disconnected. And despite the external success, despite the things that we may have accumulated or accomplished, this feeling of not feeling like enough, this feeling that something is missing, just continues to perpetuate and resonate through your being. This unsettled feeling of not really feeling complete or like you've achieved anything at all despite the success you might be having in your lives. For years, I was a closed woman, a cold woman, outwardly successful but inwardly empty. I had the husband, the designer, everything, the successful business, and the lifestyle. But slowly I started to sabotage myself and my life. I believed I wasn't worthy, that I couldn't trust men. This insidious belief infiltrated every area of my life, leading to weight gain, business sabotage, and a cycle of mistrust and a failed relationship. There came a moment where I knew that it had to change. When I realized that all the good things and all the bad things in my life had one thing in common, and that one thing was me. And so I began addressing the deep-seated wounds that were driving my behavior. I started by learning to trust myself and others again. And this meant putting down the sword, coming home to the truth of my own heart, and embracing my vulnerability. I integrated practices of true self-love, not this inflated ego of confidence. I implemented mindfulness techniques backed up by somatic practices. And I focused on emotional healing and inner child work and integration. I know what it feels like to be disconnected from yourself and to not feel worthy of love or success. I've been the woman in boardrooms secretly stopping other women from rising, the one who emasculated her husband, thinking success was the only way to receive happiness. But through my journey, I've learned to operate from a place of overflow and ease, not hustle and burnout, which we are so conditioned to believe is the only way. I now live a full life, captivating myself in my own love, inspiring change and helping other women do the same. And I want to leave you with some tips. I want to leave you with some things you can implement right now to start living from this place of grace, to start living from this place of leading yourself and leading your lives and your businesses in a graceful way. So one of the first things you can do is like a mindful a mindful reflection practice. So just by spending 10 minutes a day journaling about your feelings and experiences without judgment. This will help you identify the emotions you're masking and gradually build your capacity to face them openly. This one was big for me in this journey. When I first started journaling, when I first started this deeper journey of self-awareness and self-love, journaling really allowed me to reflect myself back to me without my ego pretending like I was doing something that I wasn't. And it really started to allow me to see where I was secretly self-sabotaging and the micro ways in which I was holding myself back. So it can be really powerful to journal some of your thoughts and reflections, just so you can be your own witness to your thoughts rather than just having them run rampant in your mind. The next is self-love practices. So the biggest one for me has been mirror work. So every morning, and I still do this now, but it was one of the crucial things in changing my relationship with my body, especially as I was starting to lose weight. So I got to 110 kilos. And as I started to come back into more self-love and self-trust, the weight actually naturally just started to melt away, because every time I would go to eat, I would ask myself, if I loved myself, what would I eat? And I would start to eat with that in mind. And then every morning I would wake up and I would say, if I loved myself, how would I move? And this is still how I operate today. Self-love for me is not just about affirmations. It's about what we consume and how we move and treat our bodies. So this was a big catalyst to not only my weight loss, but my overall self-love journey. So at the beginning of my journey, I still do this now, after I get out of the shower, I will oil my whole entire body. So I will sit in front of the shower naked and I will oil my body and I will tell myself how much I love myself whilst looking in my eyes. And that's been one of the catalysts to rebuilding the relationship with my body, especially after childbirth, after my body changing, from losing weight as well. I used to be a fitness model and do bodybuilding, and I go to Pilates every day and I walk every day, and I love my body and I'm in great shape, and societal pressures can tell us differently. So this mirror work has been pivotal in changing the relationship with myself and with my body. The third one is embracing vulnerability. So this one was huge. Brene Brown says, shame loses its, something along these lines, that shame loses its power in daylight, and shame loses its power when it's spoken in safe spaces. So vulnerability is a huge piece. So back when I first started my journey, I would make 60K cash paydays, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like I accomplished anything. I actually really couldn't feel any of my happiness, because I wasn't allowing myself to feel my sadness or my grief. That's a whole nother live. But what would happen was I would receive this money or I would receive this achievement, and because of the trauma in my childhood, this voice would come inside my head and say, if people truly knew who you were and what happened to you, they wouldn't allow you to have this success. Now, it seems crazy to say that out loud, but it's truly the thought that I had, that I was evil, that I was broken, that if people knew my story, that I would get fired from my job or something ridiculous. I'm not entirely sure what the depth of fear was back then, but it was this feeling that because of the things that happened to me as a child, that I was inherently unworthy and I was inherently incapable of receiving anything good in my life. And so my life started to change in big ways, and this was when the weight started to fall off. When I went to a coach, so I hired a coach at the time, and I actually spoke into this shame that I had been holding for 34 years of my life. And it was from that moment that she held me with so much love and acceptance and non-judgment, and it rewired this part of my brain that made me think that I was a monster, or there was something wrong with me, or that I wasn't worthy, because I shared that shame with someone else and they had the capacity to hold me in that with so much love. And it's part of why I do what I do is that people heal in safe spaces. People heal in spaces where they feel loved and not judged. And the reason I do so much of my own shadow work is so I can hold people in this space of non-judgment, so I can hold people in this space of unconditional love, and really just be curious about why they feel the way they do about themselves. And I know this because this was pivotal in my own journey of coming home to myself in this graceful, loving way. I've had so many clients that have gone through these practices, that have been able to implement in their lives, and the change that I have seen has been insurmountable. I think that's the word. There's one woman that I've worked with who's a clinical psychologist, and in just 6 weeks of sessions with me, she wasn't working at the time, and she went back to working. And she messaged me one morning, and she woke up and she was like, I haven't felt this much joy and self-love and self-acceptance for at least 10 years of my life, even further than that, that I can't truly remember. And so I know that this work works, and I know that you can get to a state of overwhelm and burnout and then have this work come into your life, and in such a short amount of time it can give you your life back. And so I wanted to remind you that this is possible for you as well. So if you're ready to lead yourself back into grace with me, if you're ready to build trust in yourself and believe in trust in others again, I would love to have you join me in Foundations of Grace, where we go through this exact methodology to be able to walk you back into leadership from grace, to walk you through these processes and take you from feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and disconnected to this place of true inner peace. It's a big call, but inner peace is available on the other side of really stepping into these places and allowing yourself to feel and be seen and be witnessed. If you would love to know more, slide into my DMs with the word grace, and I can talk you through what is on offer in the program. I can't wait to speak to you soon. Big love.